Hello everyone, I'm here to show you how to configure Guncraft real quick. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible, so please excuse me if I do drag on because I have a tendency to do that. Right, so to configure Guncraft is quite easy. After you've installed Guncraft in your Garage Mod add-ons and the Guncraft, remember FPlib as well. After you've installed it, you can go to Guncraft and Lua, and here you will have the configuration file. There's also a backup of the default configuration, which is nice to have. Of course, you can always download the script again from the script folder to get back the configuration. And there's also a pre-made configuration for M9K weapons, but we'll talk about that later. So if we open up here the config, right? So there's some notes here, and let's just dive into it. The first thing here is the dev mode, and this, for any running server, this should always be off. This is just for debugging, and it allows players to use some commands that will break the game. So keep this at false, just for pretty much every purpose. Next we have the price for a workbench, the workbench that the gun dealer will use to make the guns. You can change the price here. This does require a restart, so be wary of that. Here you can allow or disallow people selling their workbench. So if you want it to function more like money printers, which you cannot sell, then you can turn this off, set this to false. Same goes for bench freezing. If you don't want players to be able to freeze their workbenches, then set this to false. Next we have the price for one material from Material Mikey. And then we have the resale value. So this appears how much one material costs, and then this is how much one material sells for at Mikey's. So you probably want to have this a bit lower, definitely not higher than the price. Then we have the buy delay. This is in seconds. This is how long after a player has purchased materials from Mikey. How many seconds do they have to wait to be able to buy new materials? If you don't want a delay, you can just set this to 0 and there won't be a delay. And then there's the same option for the donator classes, the donator ranks. The minimum buy is just the minimum amount of materials a player can buy. And same goes for max buy and the max buy donator. Right? Then we have the team, or the job rather, that is able to use Guncraft. So if you have this would usually be gun dealer, but if maybe in your server you call it an arms dealer. Now this is cap sensitive. This has to be exactly the name of the job that uses it in game. So we just make sure that's correct. Then we have here an array, a table of the donator ranks. So this is all the ranks that will be considered donators by Guncraft. And there's some in here already, but if you say don't want your subadmins and developers to act as donators, you can remove those. Or if in your server the donator rank is called something else, then you can add it here or change this. This is of course ULX user groups. Then we have some shipment multipliers. So a shipment by default is 10 weapons. So keep that in mind when multiplying up, because this first one, the shipment time multiplier, say that's 9.5. This means when you craft a shipment, it takes, if you say craft a shipment of shotguns, it will take the same time to craft a shipment as it would to craft 9.5 regular shotguns. So you can change this to more or less, or whatever you'd like. I like to have it a bit lower, so there's like a reward for crafting shipments instead, because it doesn't take so long. Same goes for the price multiplier. Yeah, same deal. I put it to 9, so it's a bit cheaper. You basically get one weapon for free. If you choose to make a shipment. And same for the experience gained. I like to have this a bit lower. It makes it pretty easy to just power level through just making shipments. So don't have this too high. Then there's the level, and not the amount of experience points, but the level required to be able to make shipments. Now the difference between levels and experience points I'll get to later. And then we have the chat commands that the player can use. You can change those. So the first chat command /materials is where the player can check how many materials they have. The next one, how much experience they have, and the third one, what chat command should be used to drop materials. So the two first one, or mainly this one actually, there might be another plugin that uses /experience, and that might interrupt this. So if that's the case, you should change this to something else like a Guncraft experience or EXP or something. Now, next we have the levels, and this is the first part that can be a bit dodgy to understand. So it's basically these numbers on the left, the indexes, those are the levels, and then the equal sign tells us how much experience, how many experience points that level needs. So for level 1, which you start out at, you need 0 experience. And say for level 7, you need 150. So you can add your own levels in here. Say if you want a level 13 for some kind of super weapon, or another level, you do level 13 and you need 1500 experience for that. Or you can change these values if you think it should be easier or harder to level up. Right? And then comes the big part, the weapon configuration. And this can be tricky to understand if you haven't worked. If you know Lua, or have made something for Garismut with Lua, this shouldn't be too hard to understand. But I'm gonna run you through this. So every line is a weapon added to Guncraft, and I've just this, by the way, is the default configuration for M9K, this one that's included here. This looks a bit different in the default configuration, just in case you don't have M9K. So say the first one, the HK USP. If you want to add a weapon like this, you would have to first add an index, and this is also the sorting. So in the workbench menu, this will be the first weapon to show up, and this down here will be the last, depending on this number. So you do the index and you do equal, and then you open them with some curly brackets. And then it needs a few parameters. First the name, and this can be anything. This is just what you want it to be recognized with. Then this is the amount of materials that one weapon requires. So this will be automatically adjusted for shipments based on your shipment multiplier, the price multiplier here. Then that's the class, and this is the entity class name of the weapon. So this cannot be just anything. You see here all the M9K weapons, they have different names here. So M9K, the double barrel shotgun, is M9K D-barrel. And these can be found, say if you have some add-on that adds a bunch of weapons. Those can be found in the entity weapons folders. Or you can usually do a Google search for your weapon pack to get the names of all the classes. Then there's the time it takes to craft one. This is in seconds, just how many seconds. And again, this will be automatically multiplied based on your time multiplier for shipments. Then there's the required XP, and that's a bit misleading, because as it says up here, this is the required level and not actually the required amount of experience points. So we see here the only thing that's the max level 12 in this configuration is the double barrel shotgun. Here it is 12, and if you're level 1 you can only make these two first. So you can change this, just set whatever. And the last one is just the amount of experience points, not levels of course, the amount of experience points you get from crafting one. And again, this multiplies with the shipment multiplier. So also a little example down here of how to add these. So say if we made our own weapon and we want to add it, we add a comma down here to make a new, remember that. Then we say, well, this is going to be weapon number 22 on the list. We do an equals, we open up some curly brackets, and then we do a name. We'll call it the hoax gun, because we've just made that. And let's say this will cost 9001 materials, so we put that in here. And the entity class name of a weapon might be your name, underscore hoax gun v1 something maybe. So we add this in here. And if we say we wanted to take a minute to make one of these, we'll do 60 for 1 minute. If we say the required level, so rec XP will be, you need to be level 13, and the XP you get from this is 100. So now, if this class of weapon exists in the Garry's Mod server, this will be added to Guncraft. Now it will automatically look up the world model and the view models. No, sorry, just the world models for these guns. I've noticed that some weapon packs, they don't probably configure their world models, so it can't go in and correctly find the proper world model, either because they don't have world models or because it's just incorrectly configured. So be wary of that. I believe it will default to a shotgun world model. So if all the weapons look like shotguns when they're dropped on the ground, that's because the weapon pack doesn't have world models. Now, of course, we added level 13 here. Not added, we set this to level 13. We don't have that, so let's go ahead and add level 13. And let's just say, like before, this will take, well, no, let's say 1300 experience. So if we save this, this will now, if you restart the server, come into effect, and you should see, given that you've made it, of course, see the hoax gun on the list of weapons. Now, of course, I don't have a hoax gun, so I'm just going to remove this. So that's how you would add weapons and configure weapons to your liking. And of course, if you use M9K weapons, just use this configuration, which is more or less balanced. Right? And below this, the last parts, is the database configuration, which is currently not implemented yet. I just have them here for testing purposes. But this will not work, and you should not enable this. It will most likely mess up a database that you add to it. So just don't do that. This will be implemented in a later version. So if you desperately want MySQL database support, please let me know so I can push that forward more quickly. Right, so that should be it for the configuration. Please leave any comments if you have any questions, either on this YouTube video or just message me through Script or Steam, whatever you'd like. Cool, I'll see you.